Hi, I'm Sebastien, Solution Architect at pFabric. Today we're going to discuss the use case about change management. For a good change management, the process is you need to make sure you've got the correct information before your change. All the pre-change checks that you're going to perform, making sure you've got the correct understanding of what you have so that you know what to change. Once you've done your change, you want to perform the correct post-change checks, which are going to make sure that what you've done is only affected the intention and that you haven't had any side effect or something else that has broke because of the change you've performed. So today we're going to discuss how ipFabric can help with the pre-checks and also the post-checks to simplify the process and also make it more reliable to avoid any side effect and unwanted surprises that you'll get the next morning because of things that was obvious but you didn't see because of the time constraint of the change window. So if we look at the screen over here, what we see is a network diagram. So this is going to be based on the discovery ipFabric is going to perform. So now you have accurate information that you can see of what is the current state of my network. And this is the information that you need before doing a change when you're starting to prepare a change. In this situation, what we're actually going to see is instead of just seeing the diagram, I also want to see some useful information where in my situation, I've got single points of failure in my network. And the one we're going to look at is those devices. I can see that they are single attached, the two switches at the end. And this is one of the issues that we want to fix with the change. This is looking at it from a technical perspective. But if we look at the value side of it, what this is those are now two switches that don't have any resiliency. So what happens if one of those links fail? Instead of losing potentially just some throughput into your network, now what you're affecting is the server that may be connected to it. So the application that's running on that server, and now you've got a business impact just because of something that was unknown to the network team that maybe was not correctly monitored. So you have that issue in your network that you may not be aware. So having a visual representation of your network allows you to see those single point of failure or to see other issues that you have. But now when you're about to talk about the change is making sure what are the interfaces that I need to use, what is currently in use, what is not. You can't always rely on the visual diagram that was last updated 6 months or 2 years ago. So you will have to go manually to, for example, that device to find out, tell me which one are the interfaces enabled, which one are in use, which one have been reserved by someone. So all those steps, which are normally done manually, it takes time. Now you've got the data that you need to prepare your change available with a few clicks in the right table to see the information that you want to see. So this is one side that we're going to look at. The other thing that we're doing in that change as well is we're going to change the routing, for example, in here. And again, now from that perspective, we're not just looking at relationship between devices, but I also want to see how is the network behaving so that if I've got a user connected to that site that wants to talk to somewhere else in the network, how does it look like? So for that, if I use the path lookup, and I'm going to use, for example, this one that I've got already pre-populated as a source destination, what I'm saying is I've got a source in here that to go to a specific destination on my SSH port, I can see I'm being dropped by the firewall. Now, if I want to go further, I can say, okay, I want to continue. And now this is the path. If the firewall was not blocking that flow, how to reach my destination. So now again, let's think from a change perspective. What I'm trying to achieve is I also want to make sure that now this user can speak to this, but at the same time, I'm seeing that there is only a single path between this site and the MPLS, which I want to fix because I want more resiliency and I'm going to enable that as part of my change. So I've got the information that I need. I can understand that I've got a firewall blocking the flow. And if I go back to my topology, I know how things are interconnected. So what I need to do from a change perspective. So I've prepared the change. I've now executed my change. And now what I want to do is look at the status that I've got afterwards. I can already see something has changed in here. Visually, I can also see those switches are now dual attached. So maybe what I want to do is compare visually those two topologies. So what this allows me to see is very quickly I can, again, without having to log into any single device, I can check that, yes, I can see things have changed in here, things in red have been removed, things in green added. Same in here, I can see that those switches are dual attached. It looks like I've achieved what I wanted to do, which is restore that connectivity in here and change something from a routing perspective there. So now I've looked at it from the relationship perspective in the topology, but I can use the path lookup as well and show the exact same end-to-end, where now what we see is the firewall has been updated as well, where before it was in red for the same path, now it's in green, but now I can also see the difference in the path as well there. So again, if I reproduce compare those two snapshots, that's what we had before. And this is the path that we see after, where we've enabled that path to go between this site to the MPLS to reach the destination. So the pre and post check, all those checks and verification can be done visually using IP Fabric. You can now see the impact that your change had on the network, ensuring that only what you wanted to change has been updated. This is the representation using the path lookup visually, but you also have maybe more related to from a compliance or standardization perspective. You could use the dashboard or other mechanism or places in IP Fabric where you can have that assurance that the change you've performed has been accomplished as expected. Okay. So now what we've shown here is how IP Fabric's data can help from a pre and post check perspective by providing you with the right data, the data that you need to understand the network at scale. Because your network is not just one or two devices, it's how all those devices talking to each other. So the goal of IP Fabric in that situation is after each snapshot is to represent the network, the way it behaves. So what we've seen right now is how IP Fabric can help from a pre and post change perspective by providing you the right data, the data that you need to ensure that everything has been performed the way you wanted it to. If I summarize what we've done is IP Fabric is going to give you that confidence first by ensuring how things are before the change so that you can prepare the change accordingly, but also checking that once the change has been performed, things are still as you would expect, that there has not been any side effect, so that nothing has changed in an unwanted way by checking different compliance dashboard or standardization, so you ensure that everything is as expected. IP Fabric, in the case of change management, is going to provide a lot more efficiency for your engineers so that they can perform their post-check at scale by not having to manually connect to a few devices and run show commands, but having the full view of your network in one table or one diagram so that you can quickly see that everything has been changed the way you would expect it to. And now, if you want to have any further details with change management and see how IP Fabric can help you with this, feel free to get in touch with us.